Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for watching. I'm Riley Rose and you're watching the very first video of Riley Rose Reviews. For my very first video, I'm going to be talking about one of my most mixed reviews from this year. It's from Insomniac's 2018 release of the newest Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong, I actually had generally a blast with this game. The web slinging mechanisms for one are absolutely incredible. Swinging around Manhattan feels exhilarating and has absolutely stunning graphics to boot. And it feels real. You can miss, you can fall, you can run into buildings. It's not super easy to get the hang of, but once you do, you feel like a superhero. As far as actual gameplay goes, if you're a fan of the Arkham Knight series, then you're gonna absolutely love Spider-Man. Obviously, both of these games are set in a New York-esque kind of scenario, but that's not the only thing that they share in common. Spider-Man's web slinging system only gets better as you level up and you gain new gadgets to use against your enemies, just like Batman's utility belt in Arkham Knight. The combat combos in this game are relatively easy to get the hang of, and I would argue almost too easy at times, because if you found the right rhythm, you are basically unstoppable. The more you play, the funner this game gets. As far as the actual story goes, there's a great balance between heavy weighted scenes and fun Spider-Man humor that we all love.
True, but that's part of my charm, isn't it?
It gives Peter Parker a really likable personality. One thing this story does that is pretty new to me is that you get a really in-depth look at not only the struggles that Spider-Man faces as he fights crime and saves the world, but also the struggles that Peter Parker as a person faces as he tries to conceal his identity and keep his family safe.
You can always stay at my place. Only if you want to.
All of the cutscenes had pretty good pacing, and I never felt myself really begging for a skip button or feeling like anything went on too long. But I will say that there were a lot of other times that I lost my patience a little bit. I started this review with the good, but now it's time for the bad.
No, not that kind of over!
For the first time ever in any Spider-Man game, you actually get two more playable characters, Mary Jane and Miles Morales. I felt like the way that Insomniac chose to engage these characters was pretty poor. Both of their playable story missions were boring. You just snuck around behind enemies, avoiding obstacles, and later in the game you finally got a stun gun so you could at least disarm them, but their missions were boring and felt a little long and also got really repetitive. The times when you got to play as them just didn't feel satisfying to me.
Pretty sure I still owe you a few.
That's smart.
Speaking of repetitive, that's actually a really negative thing that seems to hang over the entire game. There were so many different side missions in this open world for different tokens, but all of them felt like they were just the same. Sometimes they tried to throw a curveball at you to throw you off your game, but it was never super challenging, so it just felt easy and repetitive.
You do know I can still see you, right?
Okay, now we get to the part that I have been waiting this whole video to talk about, the boss fights. The boss fights. There's a part in the game where you meet the Sinister Six. Players have an option. You can decide to take on Rhino and Scorpion first, or go ahead and take on Vulture and Electro. I chose Vulture and Electro. This boss fight is super hard, and it's not because the villains are hard, it's because the way they set up the map is confusing and just doesn't work on any level. The balance in which the map is set up of where players can and can't go to fight is so tiny. I constantly would accidentally leave the battlefield. Sometimes your Spider-Man would just stop, swing, and go in the complete opposite direction of where you were trying to go. I think that my experience with this is different from a majority of gamers, but the fact that it happened it tainted how I feel about this game. I defeated Vulture. Super easy. He goes down, there's a cutscene, the police get him. Great, it's just you and Electro.
Should check on Sparky.
So here I am, I'm webbing around, accidentally leaving the boundaries. I'm doing a pretty good job at dodging his attacks. You basically just had to dodge, web to him, beat him up. I'm going through the game, I keep webbing Electro and I'm beating him up, and I think I probably beat him up more than 10 times in one battle, then ended up dying. The reason why is because Electro will move around the battlefield every time you kind of beat him up. And the last time when I did, he moved to a part of the battlefield that was outside of the bounds of the map. The boss that I was trying to defeat was actually outside of where I was allowed to go. So as you can see, what happened is that I would web to him, and as soon as I got like an inch away from the guy, all of a sudden my Spider-Man would straight up stop, turn around, and web. Gamers have a negative reputation for being angry and yelling at screens. I don't want to contribute to that, but I did that. I did that very loudly, and here's a clip of it. I keep leaving the mission, so he keeps freaking out. Good! Ah! Yeah, and he's a dick. He's still a dick. I'm just trying my best. Oh!
You glitched out. You glitched into.
What was that? Are you kidding me? A friend and I were talking about it, and he suggested to me that maybe I should just reload it. I reloaded it, and voila, it worked, and I was able to move past it, but it just tainted how I felt about the game, and the rest of the game after that felt a little tedious. But I will say, the way that they wrap up the story between Peter Parker and Doc Ock is beautiful and sad.
You knew?
I probably would have cried if I didn't feel that way about the boss battles. Overall, I thought the game was really well done. The scenery is beautiful, the story is pretty good, gameplay gets repetitive, and I lost interest kind of quick though. Instead of stars, I like to measure my games by petals, and I think I would give this game about 3 petals. But that's just my opinion. I know a lot of other people loved it. If you did, please comment below. Hit subscribe, and then also make sure to follow me on Instagram at RileyRoseZ, and also on Twitter.